Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike, and today I have Andrew with me. Andrew is also part of our CXE organization, Customer Experience Team, and they're covering Azure Network Security. I have no clue about it, so that's why he's here, and he will educate me and hopefully many of us what's all in there. So first of all, Andrew, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Heike. My name is Andrew Mathu. I'm a product manager in the Azure Network Security Customer Experience Engineering team.
Yes, thank you so much. So I think there is so many things I need to learn. First of all, what is Azure Network Security? There is not just one product, maybe 2, 5, like what's all in there?
Azure Network Security is actually a combination of tools that work together to protect our network resources. So it's not just one tool, but we have several of them. The main three ones that our team handles are Azure Firewall, Azure Web Application Firewall, and Azure DDoS. DDoS is distributed denial of service.
Okay. And if a customer wants to get these tools, are they getting the whole package at Azure Network Security, or are they going to purchase the products or like the tools differently?
They are going to purchase them separately. So Azure Firewall is its own product or service. Azure WAF is a separate service. And also Azure DDoS Protection is a separate service.
Okay. So when I think about a firewall, it's a wall of briquettes, as we know them from our pictures that we used to draw when it came to firewalls. And it's responsible to keep unwanted traffic out of the network, but also don't let any specific traffic maybe go up from inside to outside. And it's working on different network levels, right? So
yes, correct.
But then a web application firewall also has a term for firewall. And I would assume that a regular firewall, like, is it possible? What's the difference? Like, I mean, there is the same, and this in the same level of the network protocol, or like layer 3 or somewhere. I forgot which layer it is.
It is a common question. So the Azure Firewall, it operates at what we call the layer 3 and the layer 4. So that's at the networking layer where we have IP addresses. Layer 4 is where we have the transport layer. So you'll have your protocols such as UDP and TCP. In addition to that, Azure Firewall has a component of layer 7. So it's also able to filter at the application layer, able to allow or disallow applications to go through. When it comes to the web application firewall, it is specialized for layer 7 or the application layer. And when I mean specialized, it is the main purpose of it is to stop what we call web application attacks. I'm sure you've heard of SQL injection attacks, the cross-site scripting attacks. And in addition to that, it's also able to stop what we call malicious bots. So bots are just, the usual internet bots, of which a huge percentage are malicious. They can cause things like DDoS attacks. They can be used for secondary attacks. So the main difference is in where they operate, with the web application firewall being more specialized for stopping application-based attacks.
Also, Azure Firewall operates on level 7. Can I configure my own rules so to make all this what the web application firewall could do? Or is it really recommended to use the web application firewall because it comes with all these special configuration options and pre-configured options?
So to answer that question, yes, within Azure Firewall, you can create application rules, and these rules can be used to control how the application traffic that is flowing through the network, whether it is allowed, whether it is denied. So in this case, we are basically just creating filtering rules based on an application, for example, MS SQL. So when it comes to the web application firewall, it goes further than just offering that filtering capability. It's able to go within the application payload and see if there's any specific threat. Like I mentioned, for example, is there a cross-site scripting threat? Is there an SQL injection, queries that could be malicious? So in essence, the web application firewall, like I mentioned, it's more specialized toward those specific web application-based attacks. However, having said that, both of them can be used together, and it's actually even recommended to be used together in some certain scenarios. For example, when you want to have what you call end-to-end TLS inspection, or where you want to inspect encrypted traffic. So you'll have what we call an application gateway with WAF, and then we'll also have what we call, of course, Azure Firewall. So that you'll be able to use both of them together and have be able to gain visibility into encrypted traffic. And when I mean by visibility, is to actually decrypt the traffic and be able to stop if in case there's a threat within that encrypted traffic.
Wow. Maybe let's introduce in a couple of words again, DDoS, like where does this come into? Like now we have the firewall, we have the web application firewall, yes. And where does the third one plug in?
Azure DDoS Protection is to stop or to mitigate what we call distributed denial of service attacks. So, or DDoS attack. So DDoS attack is an attack that aims to overwhelm a resource. A resource could be an application, a virtual machine. So it overwhelms it with a large amount of traffic, making it unavailable. So with Azure DDoS Protection, we are able to mitigate or to stop those DDoS attacks towards your publicly facing application. So that's where now DDoS comes in. Main aim is to stop those DDoS attacks.
Good. So I think, Andrew, you brought a demo. So I think I'm curious to see how that looks like, how you target specific networks, because, you know, a network is not just one IP here and one IP there. So you might want to configure it on different networks, segments, and then how that look like. So let's jump into the demo.
Absolutely. So we can configure these security tools through the Azure portal, CLI or PowerShell. In this demo, I'm going to take you quickly through the configuration within Azure portal. So where I am currently, I'm in the Azure portal. You can see home, and then I went to File Manager. So File Manager is actually a network security management tool where we can manage all of these three products. So down here under security, you can see Azure Files. You can see Azure File Policies. We have some security partner providers, DDoS protection plans, and web application file policies. So I'll start first of all with Azure Files. So Azure Firewall is the actual resource of the container that is going to have an Azure Firewall policy. So there's a bit of a difference between the two. So this is just the container. It's going to have the public IP address, and it's the first one that you're going to configure. Then once we have our file ready, we're going to create what we call the Azure Firewall policies. So the policies contain our rules, what we have discussed about, the filtering rules, the ability to be able to control traffic.
What is the container now, Andrew? So there was a create button. So you create this and you say, okay, this is now my shelf, my container that contains specific network adapters. And then you apply the policies to this container, which contains.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's correct. So for example, if I go to my Azure File instance, we should be able to see it has the public IP. It also deployed within what we call a virtual network, its own separate service, which is called the Azure File subnet, a specific subnet within that virtual network. So this is how it looks like initially when you create it. Now, after this creation, we go next and we create what we call the Azure Firewall policies. And just while I'm here, just to note, the Azure Firewall has three SKUs or three versions. We have the basic SKU, the standard SKU, and the premium SKU. So the main difference is for these SKUs is the basic SKU is geared towards more of the smaller customers, the SMB customers. So in terms of its amount of bandwidth throughput that it can handle, it's geared towards that customer segment. For the Azure File standard SKU, this is more geared towards the corporate enterprises who want a certain specific range of bandwidth, for example, up to 30 Gbps. Then the Azure File Premium SKU is geared towards customers who are more security sensitive. For example, you can have banks, financial institutions who want more security. So it means the Azure Firewall Premium will have more security features, and it's going to be able to stop more security threats. So as an example, within this Azure Firewall instance, we have here a policy, and this is an Azure Firewall Premium policy. So if I click on this particular policy, when I go to the left on the settings, you'll see a couple of things. You'll see the parent policy, the rule collections, DNAT rules, network rules, application rules, DNS, threat intelligence, TLS inspection, and so on and so forth. So these are the security settings within an Azure Firewall Premium policy that enable us to carry out security. So as a quick example, if I click on the network rules, you should be able to see how we use network rules to allow or to disallow or to filter traffic. So you'll see here a couple of things. You'll see the rule collection name. So a rule collection is basically a grouping of rules together. So you can group various rules into a rule collection and then into a rule collection group. The rule will have its name. Under here source, you'll see what is the source, what is the originator of this traffic, what port are we filtering it on, what protocol, what is the destination. And then finally, we have allow under action. So the action can either be allow or deny. So in this case, it means traffic coming from these various specific subnets on networks is being allowed to this destination. Conversely, you can also have a deny rule. So this is basically how we're able to filter traffic based on source and destination.
So Andrew, when you have collection and groups, what does make sense for customers to put something in a collection and in a group? Is it like a specific application with multiple rules, or a segment? Like, what are some experiences here?
It depends on what you are trying to protect. But in most cases, for best practice, usually group applications or workloads that are similar, that are being protected together. For example, if you have, for example, a web-based application, a MS SQL application, you can create specific rules for them and group them into a rule collection and then into a rule group. So it depends on the customer. Some group them based on workloads. Others can also group them based on their departments or the organization hierarchies. So you can have rules, for example, a rule collection or a rule collection group for IT, a rule collection group for accounting, and so on and so forth. So those are the two main ways that you can use these rules and rule collection to try and group your rules together for easier usability, for efficiency. Also, if you want to add more rules or delete rules, you can easily do them from that particular rule collection. And then moving on, just to also highlight something that's also important and part of the Azure Firewall Premium, and also within standard is what we call threat intelligence. So threat intelligence is a feature that's able to be able to block or to allow and also to alert traffic coming from non-malicious IP addresses and domains. So you can see as an example within the threat intelligence page, you can have it in off alert. So in alert, it's only going to alert you that it's seen malicious traffic. Alert and deny going to alert, and it's also going to block that particular malicious traffic. So this is a great add-on to be able to filter traffic coming from non-malicious IP addresses and domains. We also have what we call TLS inspection. So TLS inspection is the one I'd mentioned a bit earlier. It's able to encrypted traffic and be able to inspect it. So the way it works, when that encrypted traffic goes through your Azure Firewall, it's going to be decrypted. After the decryption process, you're able to now apply, for example, your network rules, your application rules, to be able to stop that traffic. In this case also, you're also able to apply what we call IDPS. So IDPS stands for Intrusion Detection and Prevention System. So IDPS is able to scan your network traffic and be able to identify malicious traffic, malware traffic, command and control traffic. And it's based on what we call signatures. So for example, if I click up here on the signature rules, we're able to see all the signatures that are able to identify and prevent malware. We have a couple of signature rule categories. So here we'll see, for example, we have Web SQL, which is attempted user privilege gain. We have potential corporate privacy violation. So all these are within the IDPS and detects and prevents any malicious traffic. And this can be applied in what we call in terms of direction. So inbound traffic is coming, is traffic that is going towards your file, while outbound traffic is traffic that is leaving your file on the outbound direction. So with IDPS and a combination of TLS inspection, you get a very powerful tools for stopping any malicious traffic within encrypted data. So this is just an overview of how Azure Firewall looks like and some of its features and capabilities.
So, Andrew, I have a question that I probably should have asked way earlier. So the firewall, of course, it's all about virtual machines and cloud resources that you have, right? Or what kind of networks can you protect here?
So the Azure Firewall, you can protect both networks within Azure, what we call the virtual network. So within the virtual network, that's where you'll have your application running in a virtual machine. But you can also be able to protect and integrate on-premises networks. And the way you do this, you'll have other network virtual appliances. For example, you'll have your VPN, you'll have maybe your express route. So these are the ones that will be able to route traffic, for example, from an on-premise network to within Azure and then go through your Azure Firewall. So it is possible to protect both networks in Azure and also networks outside of Azure through that hybrid connectivity.
Okay, Andrew. So thanks. I know this is a big tool, but let's move to WAF. I'm interested to see how this looks like, please.
Absolutely. So here we go. So within File Manager under Security, again, we have Web Application Files. And something to note about WAF is that it runs within another service. So we have WAF in front door, and then we have WAF in Application Gateway. So the Azure front door, this is what we call a content delivery network. So they help to speed up our web content by offering caching services. It can do caching. It can also do load balancing, all to make access to applications faster. So within front door and within Application Gateway, you'll have our Web Application Firewall. So for example, you can see here, this second Web Application Firewall is within an application gateway. So it's called an application gateway WAF policy. So I'm going to click on it and then I'll quickly show you its main prevention mechanisms. So I'll click on settings and then I'll go to managed rules. So under managed rules, here we should be able to see in a couple of seconds two managed rules. The first one is called the Microsoft Bot Manager rule set. And this rule set is a collection of rules that are able to control what we call bots. So you can see your various categories. You have bad bots, you have good bots, and non-bots. So you can be able to take various actions on this. For example, you can block, you can allow, for example, on good bots, or you can log. So logging will just log or give us information. The second managed rule, we call it a managed rule because it's managed by Microsoft themselves. A user doesn't have control of this. It's the Microsoft, what you call the default rule set, or you also hear the core rule set. So again, this is a set of rules that prevent or stop malicious attacks on our web application. And this is what we had talked about earlier, our SQL injections, our path traversals. You can see file access attempts. All of these are listed here, and these are the ones that actually stop those malicious attacks. So just another quick one. In addition to the managed rules, we have the custom rules. So the custom rule will now allow the user, in addition to the managed rules, for the user, the customer themselves, to come up with their own rules. So the user here is able to click on add a custom rule, and they'll be able to specify what do they want to be allowed or what do they want to be blocked based on the specific scenario they have. So they can allow a block based on a geographic location or based on an IP address. So here you can see this within our demo environment, an example of custom rules that the user has created. So you can see here they are blocking a user agent such as Firefox. Here they are blocking a specific attack, Log4j. So this gives them that granularity, that flexibility to add their own rules. And this is the main component of what we call the WAF policy within the Web Application Firewall.
So Andrew, you had the managed rules, which is everything is managed by Microsoft, and then your custom rules. Will your custom rules override the managed rules? Like if you know a good bot, but I don't want a bot at all, so I can then basically still overrule the managed rules.
That's a great question, and a question we keep getting asked. So when you do create custom rules, they do override the managed rules. So for example, if you have a custom rule that is closely associated with a managed rule, that custom rule will have a higher precedence than the managed rules. So the custom rules get processed first, then we go to the managed rules.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I understand this concept. I see there's a lot more application gateways, sensitive data, but let's have a look at DDoS, because this is the third tool that we wanted to talk about today.
So here I'll click on DDoS protection plans, and here you'll see what we call a DDoS protection plan. This is its name. I'm going to click on it, and then you're going to see what it's about. So like I mentioned, the DDoS or Azure DDoS protection is to protect against DDoS attacks that are attacking our public resources. And by public resources, I mean internet-facing resources that have a public IP addresses. So if I go to settings under protected resources, here we can see all the resources that can be protected by Azure DDoS protection. So it can be a VNet, because a VNet will have a public IP address. It can be a firewall, can be an application gateway, a bastion host, and so on and so forth. So a DDoS protection plan is pretty straightforward to set up. I will just click on create, 2-3 steps, and then you add the actual resources that you want to be protected by this DDoS protection plan.
So once you get that DDoS protection plan, Andrew, are there specific resources that are part of your Azure environment by default protected, or do you have to select all of them and add them yourself?
So essentially, Azure itself does have what we call a very basic or protection level DDoS protection. Because of the scale and size of Azure, it's able, of course, to mitigate or to stop most of the DDoS attacks. However, the main value addition for this DDoS protection is your own application. There might be some instances where a platform level protection, because the thresholds are set to be so high that in some cases a DDoS attack, especially one targeted towards the application, the platform protection may not be able to protect it. That's why you'll need now a specific DDoS protection plan for your application or for your IP address. And that's the value addition. So this one, you'll have to come and create the plan itself and add it or to the resource that you want protected.
So I see, of course, there is a lot of monitoring and metrics and alerts. I would assume you can connect a SIEM to get all the alerts into the SIEM. How would someone without a SIEM get all these alerts? Is this like included here? Is there an alert dashboard?
To answer that, if I may quickly go to, for example, Azure Firewall, I'll go to what we call monitoring. So within these security tools, firewall, the WAF, the DDoS, you are able, of course, to gather logs, the metrics, and be able to use this for your monitoring, for your viewing, and also for example, for SOC operations. So as an example, within Azure Firewall, we have what we call the metrics. And these metrics are specifically related to this file. So we'll be able to see, for example, this metric here, application rules hit count. How many times did my application rule have traffic? What is the data processed? What is the firewall health state in terms of latency, network rules hit count, and also what we call SNAT port utilization and throughput. So we do have these inbuilt metrics within these tools. We also have the diagnostic settings. So for the diagnostic settings, we are able to gather the logs that are traversing through our firewall and be able to send them, like you mentioned, to a SIEM, to an external SIEM, to a log analytics workspace, also to a storage account. So here we have 2 diagnostic settings that have been set up. If I click on edit setting, we should be able to see where they are being sent. So within Azure Firewall, you can see these are some of the log types that can be able to collect the Azure Firewall network rule, application rule, threat intelligence, even IDPS. So it will tell us like the throughput of the traffic that's hitting our IDPS signatures. And then we're able, in our example here, sending it to a log analytics workspace. In this case, this is its name, and this is the destination table. So yes, you can be able to send this and also to Sentinel.
So Andrew, last question, because there's so much that you showed already, but there's so much more, so you will have to come back one day.
Absolutely.
But last question is about Copilot for security. Is there any integration for Azure Firewall as well?
Yeah, great question. Yes, you do have integration, and specifically for Azure Firewall and Azure Web Application Firewall. So for example, if you look at my screen, this is the 2 plugins for Azure Firewall and Web Application Firewall. So with Azure Firewall, you can be able to go through the IDPS logs, do your investigations, signature analysis, and with Azure Web Application Firewall, you'll be able to see your top attack summaries, top WAF rules, and of course, this also help a lot with investigation, post-attack analysis. So you do have the integrations, and we anticipate more to be coming out in the future for our products.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Andrew, for being my expert on today's show and bringing such an interesting topic for me as a newbie. I hope everyone out there also enjoyed this episode. And if you want to hear more about these technologies, let us know. And Andrew, again, thank you very much and talk soon. Bye-bye.